Happy Monday, everybody. Thank you so much for downloading or streaming the Be Our Guest podcast. We've got a great trip report for you today. We're headed out to San Jose, California with listener Ian, and we're talking about a great trip. It's a split stay to Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge, over to Kidani Village and the Beach Club Villas this past summer. And we talk about, check this out, not only going to all four parks, and of course they're Disneyland vets, so they went out to Walt Disney World for just really the second time in the last decade or so. So lots of differences between Disneyland experiences and Walt Disney World experiences. It's him and his wife and his 13-year-old son, but they also took a break in the middle of the trip to go kayaking up at Silver Springs State Park in Florida. So that was fun to talk about. They also stayed at Hard Rock Hotel over at Universal. We talk about that in a couple days in the parks over there. So we get 4 theme parks. That's 3 hotels and a little kayaking. So lots of variety on today's show. So get ready for some fun Disney talk. Don't forget, today's show always brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. We are standing by right now to help you plan an amazing Disney adventure for no additional cost to you. Check out all the details today over at themagicforless.com. Please also use our Amazon affiliate link as you do that shopping this busy holiday season. It's one extra click that supports the show each and every time. Bookmark it. Use it as often as you can. beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. And thank you so very much to our Patreon supporters. You guys make this show possible. Thank you for our supporters already. You can support us as well, just $5 a month. And for that support, you get a bonus show every week called Mike in the Midwest. Come over this week. We'd love to have you. Patreon.com/beourguestpodcast.
Ready to take a trip to the world? You found the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. This is where your memories come front and center on our podcast stage.
Welcome to episode 2607 of the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. I'm your host, Mike Rallman from beourguestpodcast.com and one of the senior agents over at the Magic for Less Travel. Happy Monday to you. Hope you're getting ready for another great week here in mid-December. And you know what? Just take some time this week to enjoy this time of the year. It comes and goes pretty quickly. If you're on your way home from work today and it's getting dark, maybe you're heading, back from a busy day. I know how it is. It's busy, stressful, and stuff like that. Take time to enjoy the holiday lights going through your neighborhood, and because they'll be down and it could be freezing where you are in this part of the world. But just maybe turn on after today's show, of course, some great music for this time of the year, whatever it is. Try to find some joy in this time of the year, because I know it gets stressful, but I hope you are doing well wherever this show finds you. And we're going to have a good time taking a virtual trip down to Walt Disney World. We're going to have a great time. We're heading out to California, out to San Jose today with listener Ian. Ian, thanks for joining us. Happy Monday. What's going on?
Hey, Mike. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Hey, I appreciate it. I know you're a little bit under the weather, so I like your spirit. You're with us here. I've had a podcast the same way many times, and this time of the year, I'll tell you what. Here in St. Louis, a true story is we're recording today. Temperature right now is 53. I'm looking at my toolbar. 53 in the morning when we wake up. I just got an alert on my phone. The wind chill is going to be 1 degree when I wake up in the morning. Stupid. So I will be sick. I'll be coughing. I'll be hacking in about 12 hours, as will everybody in my town. So you guys don't get those swings out there as bad, do you, on San Jose?
No, it's pretty, we're lucky out here. I mean, it's like in the 50s or 60s all day long, basically. So.
But you're from Springfield, Illinois, so you feel my pain, right? You've been. Oh,
I do. I don't miss it at all. I'll say that. I miss some things about the Midwest, but not that.
I was gonna say you escaped this stuff. It's so nice, yeah. And you wonder why I'm excited to head to Disneyland in late January. I can't wait. Oh man, I love that place. All right, so before we get going on today's show, I'm gonna ask you a few things, but what's your backstory with being a Disney fan, so everybody can kind of get to know you a little bit.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, grew up in Illinois. So as a kid, like Disney was barely on the radar. I mean, I was aware of the movies, and we would go down to St. Louis and go to Six Flags every summer. And my first time to Disney World was actually in middle school. My mom, I still can't believe it, won one of those radio contests of like an all expense paid trip down to Disney World, like flights, hotels, everything. So we did that, didn't have a clue what we were doing. I think we bought the book, the Birnbaum's
Mm-hmm.
book, and that was it. Um, but that was a one-time shot. So then after college, I actually lived in Orlando briefly. So I got to go to, I think, Magic Kingdom once or twice, and got to see Pleasure Island once or twice. And then not long after that, we got to California. So I've been to Disneyland now 6 or 7 times, but hadn't been to Disney World for a long time. And we went back in 2018 when our son was 7, and that trip was fantastic. And kind of we decided to do that trip, I remember thinking, well, I listen to podcasts. I bet there's some podcasts about Disney World. And of course, dipping my toe in the pool, I soon realized there was a flood of podcasts out there. So listened to a bunch, settled on a couple, and eventually narrowed it down to yours, just because, as you've talked about on the show, the vibes are good, but you guys also, are honest about your evaluations. But it just kind of really fell in love with everything about planning a Disney World trip. So we went in 2018. It was fantastic. And then I've since been to Disneyland several times. And then this summer, we were doing a trip out to the eastern part of the United States, so decided to do another Disney World trip.
So I got to ask you this. This is totally off topic before we dive into all the Disney stuff, because we are about the same age and grew up in kind of the same area here. We do have a few listeners here in the St. Louis area. Back in the day at Six Flags, because we're all kind of amusement park, theme park enthusiasts.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite attraction from like back as a kid at Six Flags, either extinct or not, that you liked back then?
I do. I certainly do. So I remember loving the log ride.
Yes, me too. Yeah,
and
still there.
and the Screaming Eagle was like my introduction to big roller coasters, and I remember riding that one for years and years, and then finally graduating to the Jet Scream, I believe it was called.
Yes, the Jet
And
Scream.
so those 3 rides were all I cared about when we would go.
The Jet
every
Scream.
time.
Oh my gosh, I had a cup that had the Jet Scream on it, because that's long gone. The Jet Scream. Now the other 2 are still there. The log flume is. I mean, it's
oh really?
It's still there, man. It's a little rickety, but it's still there. And the Screaming Eagle. Screaming Eagle is still there, and it's at one time when it came out in 1970. Well, the park opened in 71, the same year as Walt Disney World. And I want to say the Screaming Eagle opened in 76, maybe, because that's why it's called the Screaming Eagle, like with the bicentennial. I think that's right. But when it opened anyway, it was the world's longest and fastest roller coaster in the world. But now it beats the crud. Like, I am too old to ride something that rough. It rearranges your internal organs. I mean, like it makes the Matterhorn at Disneyland feel like like you're in a smooth ride. That's something. Man. But I said to ask you that because back in the day,
lots
man.
Of from there for sure.
And then, did you ever do the? I know it's totally off topic. Did you ever do the one that spun you and put you against the wall? What was that called? The Tom Twister.
I've never been a huge fan of spinning rides in general, but I had to do it once.
I did too. You could stand up top and watch everybody do it. Yeah, after you did. Yeah, exactly. Okay, back to the Disney though. So you guys, obviously based on the West Coast out in California, have a lot of experience with Disneyland. Before we dive into this trip, what are some of the things you guys really enjoy with Disneyland that maybe outside of your Walt Disney World trips, that because we got a lot of folks that are discovering Disneyland for the first time? What would you tell them that not to miss?
Yeah, I mean, so we love, my favorite ride is Pirates of the Caribbean.
Nice.
And I love the little extra part that we have out here that's not at Disney World. My other favorite ride is Mission Breakout, the Guardians ride. And in fact, we'll mention it later, but when we did Tower of Terror out in Disney World, my son was kind of like, that's different. Like the vibe of the ride itself is so different.
Yeah.
That it was eye-opening. And we also just love a lot of the little, the Storyland canal boats. We've done we'll do the canoes because we'll go down there for 3 or 4 days at a time. So we try to hit all the little things that are really nice. And obviously with Disneyland, the best part is just that the 2 parks are so close together. We just hop back and forth all day long.
Yeah, that's my thing. When I go to Disneyland, I'm all about the small stuff. It's so funny, it's really complimentary, I think, too, though, because I'll do like 3 or 4 small things, like you said, like the storybook canal boats, the canoes. Because Everybody says, you
Hmm.
want to do the canoes? I'm like, yes, I want to do the canoes. For
Yeah.
one thing, I tell everybody, I cannot believe that in 2024, they still have something like the
Yeah.
canoes where you're getting wet, splashed by this water. I mean, these things could flip. I mean,
Yeah.
there's
Oh
not a
yeah.
0% chance that everybody could go into the drink at some point. I mean,
Yeah.
I still can't believe that the lawyers have not shut that attraction down. I
Yeah,
cannot
it's
believe,
really
and
fun.
like they're human powered. I'm like, I'm doing it for as long as they're going to have it, and then, you have
Yeah.
like the little circus train. I mean, I know it's dumb, but
Hmm.
it's cute, and then you mix in the e-ticket attractions, like,
Yeah.
the classics and stuff like
Radiator
that.
Springs Racers, of course, is
Oh,
fantastic too. And
amazing.
yeah,
And then you got all the good
but it's
snacks. You got all the good
it's
dining.
so nice because at any point in the day, you basically are like, I'd like to go on this ride. How's the line look? Oh, if not, I can go to 5 other things within
Oh,
50 feet. You know,
100%.
it's so nice.
Then you're always just like, I'm going to wait for 20 minutes. I'm going to get a corn dog.
Yeah. Right. Right.
Exactly. Oh my gosh. I can't wait for end of January for the races. All right, so let's talk about your trip. That's why we're here. So, what brought this trip around? I know you guys were in Atlanta. You were kind of on the East Coast for
Hmm.
some events. You're, like we said, you were kind of in the neighborhood in the pre-show. So, tell us about how this trip came around.
Yeah. So we were going to the wedding in early July, and we immediately, when we were planning things back, probably at early 2024, like, well, what else should we do? And we'd been to New York City a couple of years ago. We'd been to DC recently. So at one point, my wife threw out, I think she's like, well, what about Disney World again? And I'm my son Colin and wife Janine, they love going to the parks as much as anybody, but I'm the one who's obsessed with everything. I listen to the podcasts, so I try not to like push it too much.
Yep.
But when she mentioned it, I
You're
was like,
like,
yes, I can plan that immediately.
let's
I'm on
go.
it. Yeah, exactly. So I was ready. So yeah, it was basically right after school got out. We went down to, it was in Southern Tennessee for the wedding for a couple of days, then drove down to Atlanta, flew, what's that, an hour flight down to Orlando, nice and easy. And yeah, it just worked out perfectly.
So you did a split stay, which I like this
Hmm.
idea because you get, and Pam Forrester talks about this quite often, and I can't agree more, is that you get basically the feel of two different, it's almost like two different vacations in one. You get two different experiences,
Absolutely.
you get two different feels. You guys did Kidani Village and Beach Club. And when you gave me a few brief notes to talk about to kind of lead the conversation, I'll be honest, I was surprised when I saw the two resorts. The one that you enjoyed more, just kind of a spoiler right here, was Beach
Hmm.
Club. And I
Yeah.
honestly thought it would be Kidani Village because of how unique that experience was. So talk about the two and the feel of both. What'd you think?
Yeah. So on our previous trip in 2018, we went to Kidani Village as well and did the whole week there and loved it. But we hadn't done a Savannah View room. We just did a regular room. So this time I knew we wanted to go back there for at least a little bit, and we wanted to do a Savannah View this time. And I also knew that I wanted to do one of the resorts near Epcot,
Mhm.
just because I had a feeling we'd be spending more time there on this trip than we had previously. And so, but I wasn't sure which order to do it in because you always talk about, saving your favorite thing for the end.
Always. Yeah.
And I wasn't sure which that was going to be. And frankly, so we got to Animal Kingdom Lodge and open up those curtains and there's animals out there. And it's just amazing, right? It's just so wonderful. It was as good as we'd remembered, plus that extra bonus of the view from the room. And the day we checked out of Animal Kingdom Lodge, I remember thinking as I'm like shutting the door, I'm like, man, I really hope I didn't do this backwards
That's
and that we're
true.
gonna regret going to this other hotel, right? Which I
Right.
know is gonna be great,
Yeah.
but I'm like, man,
Yeah.
maybe I messed this up.
Yeah. There's not
And
going to
so,
be a giraffe out there tomorrow.
yeah, right. But man, the beach club was so great. I mean, so for both of them, we rented DVC points. So we were in that section of the hotel that's a little back
Mhm.
from the main walk area there. Um, but man, the renovated room, like when we got to our beach club room and we're like looking for the hide a bed, pulling out of the couch, and it's like, oh, wait a minute, it's a Murphy bed.
Yep.
And my son was so excited about that because that the mattress was so much nicer than the pull out couch, right? And just the location of that hotel is so perfect. We couldn't get enough of it. And of course, the pool was great, even though we didn't get to use it as much as we'd hoped because of storms and whatnot. And I've got my beach club candle here because the smell of the resort was so wonderful. Um, it couldn't have been happier with that choice. I walked over to the yacht club one of the nights just to check that out and was like, oh yeah, I think I made the right choice with going beach club instead of yacht club.
It's so funny because people have opinions on that.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. I didn't think I would have a
mean,
strong one, but
they
I
have
walked
hot
over there and
takes.
was like, nope, turn back around.
Yeah, and people are like yacht or beach, man. They got they're both great. I mean,
Yeah,
they're the same hotel. They just have different, like, it's basically like an overlay, right? It's
different
one's a little
paint. Yeah,
darker,
different colors of paint.
one's wood, more like wood dark. It's kind of like
Yeah.
the Wish and the Treasure, kind of. They're the same
Hmm.
ship, but the
Oh
Treasure
yeah,
is kind of darker, and the Wish is lighter. It's like a white ship.
yeah,
But okay,
yeah.
now you're getting too deep here on a Monday. But that's what the show is for. Okay, so one thing also you mentioned in your notes I wanted to kind of get into, which I thought was super interesting because I'm a former teacher and also a parent of 2 kids. You said that it was very different, not better, not worse, but different going back to Walt Disney World with your son now that he was 13 rather than 7. So
Hmm.
talk about that for a couple seconds. I mean, obviously, more independence, probably more into having input on what was
Hmm.
going to happen throughout the vacation. But just how did you notice that throughout the trip?
Yeah, well, the very first thing I noticed on our very first morning, I knew his favorite ride last time was Expedition Everest. It was last time he was 7 years old. That was his first big roller coaster. He loved it. We rode it again and again and again. So like, well, we'll do that first this time just to get things going. And we rode it and it was fun. But he came off of it and he kind of went, that's not as exciting as I remembered. And I was like, oh, we're dealing with a different person here, obviously now. And my stomach got just as messed up on it as always. So I was like, well, I haven't
Exactly.
changed.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so that was probably the biggest thing was just the amount of big rides that he wanted to do. Um, less into characters. We didn't do any character dining this time, which opened us up to some other meals that were also fantastic. Um, just the pace at which we went. Um, the last time it was basically he would just follow our lead. This time, like you said, he had a little more inputs on, no, I'd rather stay at the pool a little longer, or I'd rather, I do or do not want to wake up super early to get there at rope drop, right? Like being a part of those decisions, which is great. We weren't quite to the age where he went off and did things on his own. I definitely realized on this trip that there were times where we would split up. My wife would go do something and I'd go with Colin or vice versa. And it'd be really nice next time to either bring a friend of his along or go with another family so that the kids can go do, you know, intense rides for 2 hours straight and we can wander through the park and be at a more leisurely pace.
I was just going to say that because I mean, basically we raised basically 2 only children because our daughters are 11 years apart, right? So
Hmm. Yeah.
Paige, we brought her best friend when she was young, like when she was like 8. We brought her best friend Molly, and they had the time of their lives, doing things together. And then, like for example, on our cruise this past summer, Paige couldn't go because of basketball obligations. She was taking her
Hmm.
basketball team to Spain, so we extended the invitation to her my niece, to Mallory's cousin, and it just made it so much better because then those 2 could hang
Yeah.
out, and that opened up the door so like Pam and I could go to Palo, and like
Yep.
we
Exactly.
could actually go do some stuff. I
Yeah.
mean, that way it wasn't just otherwise she was just hanging out with us the whole time. So I think
Hmm.
the opportunity does. That's the thing is I think that a lot of times parents don't think about that with Disney Vacation, and it is a huge like. You got to think about a lot of things, right? If you're traveling across the country with somebody else's kid. But I will tell you, I've done it a few times. We brought one of our cheerleading partners too a few years back down to Walt Disney World. We flew Frontier that time to like cut the costs. And I mean, but it was an adventure, right? I mean, we talked to
Yeah.
the parents a couple times ahead of time. We had meetings and had all the forms signed if, she got hurt or
Hmm.
something. And, talked about what everything costs and all ahead of time. But you know what? She had the time. Mallory had the time of her life. So did
Yeah.
Megan. And they took a jillion pictures. And Megan had never been to Walt Disney World. And it turns out, I mean, knock on wood, every time we've done it, it was a blast for everybody involved. But, I think it is something to think about, especially when you have one kid. I
Yeah.
think that's because it is different. I think because I mean Paige still talks about going with Molly, you know, and they're 28
Yeah.
now.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
They still talk about it.
And the kids are better with the technology than we are. So I know he'll be fine
Yeah,
with the phone and the app and all that. So that's not a concern either.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
So I got to ask you one other thing too before we dive into kind of the parks, because now you guys went to Silver Springs one day. Now,
Yeah.
I think I went to this park one day, like probably 20, 25 years ago. Is this the park that used to have like the glass bottom boats where they filmed?
Yes, that's exactly what it was.
And they filmed
Yep.
like some movies there, right?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly
okay.
it.
When
Yeah.
I saw this in your notes, I was like, I loved this place. We
Yeah,
went
it was
there.
great.
I went there, like, I swear it was like 25 years ago. And it was like a kind of like an amusement park. Like you paid admission, you went in, you rode a glass bottom boat. And I mean, it wasn't like it was like a botanical park or something, but it was,
So I think there's two versions of it. There's what you're talking about, but ours was more of just we were in individual kayaks that were also glass bottom.
okay.
And we got to paddle ourselves around with there was like 10 of us total and there was a tour guide, but it's exactly that spot. It's
Yeah, I
wonderful.
think it went out of I know it went out of business, actually. I know it's
Oh,
gone.
really?
So
Oh,
you
okay.
could have been in the same spot. I think this was just, again, a mold and it's gone.
Oh,
But I was just like, it was the most beautiful like place. I was like, oh my, because it was in January too, and I was there. Now this was
Oh,
before I
nice.
ever traveled and I didn't fly. So I was like, oh my gosh, like there's places where it's 78 and sunny
Yeah.
and I'm in I'm in a boat and it's January and I'm supposed to be in the snow in St. Louis. I still hadn't figured that out. But tell us about that. I mean, a kayaking adventure at Silver Springs, because what's that, about 90 minutes from Walt Disney World or so, like
Yep.
2 hours, something like that.
Yep, an hour and a half. So it's like you described. It's beautiful. It's picturesque. The water is crystal clear, up to like 50 feet deep. We had the opposite thing that you were thinking about. It was middle of the summer, and we were looking for a place that was cool.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and it was. We weren't sure how it would actually be out on the water, but it was so nice and refreshing because, as the name suggests, the water's fed by natural springs, so it's ice cold all year round. So it was wonderful. The hope when you go there is that you'll see manatees. We did not, because I guess they're just not as interested in coming out that way in the summertime. But you still see tons of crocodiles and turtles, and you get like right up close to them. The tour guide would be like, "Come on closer," and I'm like, "No, I'm good.
Yeah,
I'll
seriously.
stay back here."
I mean, my whole life they've been saying stay away from them. What are you doing?
Yeah. But yeah, it was just really, really pleasant and nice, and it was a nice break. We did it on Thursday of our week, and it was just a really nice way to break up, the beginning and end of our trip. Yeah, I definitely recommend it to anyone who's thinking about it.
It's a cool idea. Just that we never had the opportunity to talk about that, and I loved
Yeah.
that part of Florida, because that's that native Florida. That's that
Yep.
Experiential that before Walt Disney World. This was like why you went to Florida, but it's just something to
Yeah.
think about because, like you say, some people go down for 10 days. And I mean the parks can wear you out. This would be a
Yeah.
great little if you have it at rental car. I mean that
Yeah.
especially for like a 13-year-old. Like
Yeah, right.
I mean to go back, they'd probably say kayaking was their favorite part. I would imagine. Okay,
My
so
wife gets all the credit too because she had suggested doing something midweek, and my first thought was, well, let's go to a Rays game down in Tampa. And she's like, no, let's do kayaking instead. So it worked out.
either one would be pretty sweet.
Yeah.
I'm actually looking over Marathon Weekend and seeing Brady Cook in the Hula Bowl now that he got
There you go.
picked for
There
that.
you go.
So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
All right, so let's talk about time in the theme parks at Walt Disney World. So what are some highlights? I mean, we just go to whatever parks on what day. We don't have to go like
Yeah.
sequentially, but what were some of the things? Because again, you have that Disneyland perspective. You're more, you have more familiarity out there. So what you mentioned the Guardians to Tower of Terror comparison, but what else stood out in the
Yeah.
parks at World?
So because we've been to Disneyland more, we knew we didn't need to spend as much time in the Magic Kingdom. So our first 2 days, we did Animal Kingdom in the morning, and then we did Epcot the first night and Hollywood Studios the next night. And I was really curious to see which one of those we would gravitate towards more. And I would say that both of them were awesome, and we loved Animal Kingdom too. Like the safari is one of our favorite things because you just can't get anything like that anywhere else, right? So we did that both days. My wife and son love Flight of Passage. I can't handle it. I can't do the screens.
We're so
I just
alike.
did
I mean,
that.
my God, we're the same person. I'm not kidding.
Yeah. So so Monday night, our first night at the parks, we get over to Epcot, and obviously the big one is Guardians, right? And so I'm like, I got to do it. I got to see how it goes. I got to try it. So we did it, and I'd read up, eat a little bit, but not too much. I'd read about looking down the track as you're going and all that. And I got to say, I didn't get sick at all. It was amazing.
There you go.
I have no idea how I lucked out. So we ended up doing that ride like 6 or 7 times over the course of the week.
Oh my God.
Because couldn't get enough of it.
We are not the same person. I
know.
I stand corrected.
As you said that, I was like, well, there's one difference. But, with the virtual queue system worked out great every day. And I figured out a trick. I don't know if it still applies, but, there's the early morning virtual queue. And then there's the 1 p.m. one, but you have to have gone in the park. So what we would do each morning was later in the week, even if we were going to another park that morning, my son and I would duck into Epcot, check in, get some food or something, and then just immediately leave. So we could still check in for that 1 p.m. virtual queue, and it worked like a charm every day. So we were able to get that every night because we'd often end the night at Epcot.
So you guys so you were staying at Beach Club. So did you guys go like in the International Gateway entrance and maybe go like in France and get an eclair or something? I mean,
bingo.
Everybody
exactly
wins. Everybody wins there if it's just,
I know, right?
Works. Bam.
Great. You twist my arm on that one. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So so we really loved, and this time more than our last trip, we just loved going through all the countries. Because my son was a little older, he's a little more interested in some of that stuff. But we just really, really had a great time in Epcot for multiple days of the trip. The other thing I'll say that was probably one of the big pluses for Beach Club, and I know it supplies other hotels as well, but the Skyliner, just game changer, right? I mean, you've said it 100 times on here, but I can't express enough how much we both enjoyed it and just how useful it was getting down to Hollywood Studios. I really wanted to take a trip down to the resorts at the southern end of it, but there were always thunderstorms in the afternoon. I mean, I know that's how Florida is, but so I never got a chance to do that. So for next time, that's something I definitely want to do as well.
And I'd encourage you to do it because going down to like Pop and Art to check that out, it's a cool station because that station actually kind of floats in the middle of Hourglass Lake, and those two resorts are pretty. I mean, they're obviously value resorts, but they're fun. I mean, I'm a retro guy, and especially Pop Century like screams, what I would love my office to be, like Rubik's cubes and old skating rink junk and stuff like that. So and the music and stuff, the hustle. So and I wish they would extend the Skyliner, even more because I think that's such a great transportation. The only downside is exactly what you said, the weather, but it's not that bad. It comes down time to time. So now. You mentioned you guys didn't get to use like Stormalong Bay too much, but did you guys get in there a little bit? I mean, it's a great pool there.
Yeah, we did one evening. So we checked into the Beach Club on a Tuesday, couldn't use it on Tuesday afternoon, couldn't use it on Wednesday afternoon. But Wednesday evening, after we came back from Epcot, we went to the pool until 11 p.m. or so, and it was as good as advertised. We just had a really good time. The pool over at the Animal Kingdom Lodge was great too, but there's no comparison really. And then on the following day, on Thursday, I guess Thursday we were at the Spring. So on Friday, we went to the pool for a good long chunk in the afternoon, and that was great. Got some drinks and snacks from Hurricane Hannah's there, and just loved it. Absolutely loved it. I try to avoid pictures and spoilers of things. I try to plan as much as I can, but I had no idea what the pool was actually going to look like. And it was just wonderful. It was more than I didn't hope for.
It is cool. It's an experience. I mean, it's deeper than you expect too in some of those parts. You gotta be careful. Yeah. If you're not a swimmer,
and
you better be ready.
It was, even though it was busy, we're able to find chairs, and there's so many different little sections of it that if one spot gets a little crowded, you just move over to somewhere else, and it's great. It was really wonderful.
So you guys were in Hollywood Studios for a bit. Anything stand out? Because of course, out at Disneyland, you guys have Galaxy's Edge, which is almost a clone of what they have at the studio. So I'd imagine you kind of just left. When I go to Disneyland, I don't even go into
Oh, really?
I don't, because it's basically the same thing and everything. There's so much other stuff I enjoy at Disneyland,
Mm-hmm.
and I do Galaxy's Edge in Florida so much that I just kind of don't go in there. 'Cause it's like, well, I've done all that stuff before.
Yeah.
So same way for you guys, or what stands out for you guys
We
at studios?
so we did Galaxy's Edge because our first day in Hollywood Studios, we'd so the last trip years ago, we did not get to do Slinky Dog Dash. It was just fast passes were too hard to come by. Just couldn't make it happen. So this time our plan was to get in early, when the park opened, go to Slinky Dog. Well, we did that, but we were kind of in the back of that pack.
Mm-hmm.
And so by the time we got there, line was already huge. So I turned to my son. I'm like, "What do you want to do instead?" He's like, "Well, let's do Rise of the Resistance," which is a pretty good fallback option,
Yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah, it is.
So we headed over there and did that, which was great. Just standby line. And then the other thing that we really wanted to try was, like I mentioned, the Tower of Terror. So we did that a couple of times. And like I said, the first time, I don't know that my son liked it as much as the Disneyland version, but it is cool that, it's different in that you kind of come out of that
Yep.
shaft
Go forward.
and go around a little bit. And, the ride's still a blast. And then later in the day, I was able to snag a fast pass, or not fast, lightning lane, I guess, for Slinky Dog Dash. So we absolutely loved that ride. That was a long time coming, but we really enjoyed it. And then the other thing that we really enjoyed there was, and I'm so glad we did it, at the very end of one of our days at Hollywood Studios, we were going back to meet my wife. It was just me and Colin, and I was like, "Well, what do you want to do?" And we're kind of looking at the times, and the Muppet Vision had no line.
Oh God!
And so
you're so lucky.
I know, right? I know. So we went over and did that. It was us and like 5 other people in the theater. So I get, it's so sad what they're doing, but I get it, right?
Yeah.
When a ride's that empty, I get
Yep.
it. But I'm so glad that we were able to do that, and it was as great as I'd remember it, and my son loved it. So we really, really enjoyed, and we're fortunate that we're able to do that ride one last time.
Yes, all parents, take your kids to see Muppet Vision 3D, so you can be like, "You saw this?
Right?
I don't remember. I don't care. You did see it. I have a picture of you in the theater."
Exactly.
Just do them a service. Now, real quick about the Magic Kingdom, though, is there anything that stood out over there that you guys enjoyed? I mean, obviously the Pirates it's not subpar, but it's just not as great as Disneyland. It is. It's different. It's shorter. But I mean, I love Blue Bayou, so that's my problem.
Yeah. I will say that, I mean, I mentioned in my notes that just the little differences, and just the fact that the line for Pirates is different. Like, that's cool. It's just, it makes it feel special, even though it's relatively the same ride. The other thing we loved at Magic Kingdom was definitely Tron. We did that one twice.
Yep.
Both times I knew we would want to do it at night, so I just went ahead and paid for the individual lightning lane so we could have a good time slot. And the first time we went out on it, we actually lucked out and got first row without even asking for it.
That's
so
awesome.
that was perfect. But that whole, what that does for the park in general, just the way that looks at night, is so amazing. It'd be fantastic if they could do something like that out on the West Coast too. Not necessarily the same thing, but
I still haven't got to ride it at night. Because
really?
back when I was riding it, you still had to do the virtual queue, and like my times were always during the day. I was like, dang, I can't get a time. It's that's amazing. Later, but I will. And because now you can just get in line. So yeah, I will. But I do like that one because that one doesn't mess me up, because it's like riding a bike real fast.
It's over like that.
And exactly, it's pretty quick.
It's perfect.
So it's pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Let me ask you real quick about your dining, because you guys went to a few quick places. You listed a couple. What were some of your a couple of your favorites from this trip?
Right. So on our previous trip, we had eaten at Boma because we stayed at the Animal Kingdom Lodge. We'd eaten at the Boathouse, and we'd eaten at Liberty Tree Tavern, and then we'd done some character meals. And those 3 we wanted to hit again, so we did those, and they were fantastic. We did Boma for breakfast. Just because the scheduling worked out better. But that place, I could just eat there every meal. I wouldn't necessarily want to pay for it every meal, but
but and I'd eat way too much if I ate there every day. But oh my gosh, it's so good.
Yeah. And then for the second trip in a row, I've tried to eat at oh my gosh, I'm forgetting the chicken place at Disney Springs.
Chicken Guy.
No, Homecoming? The nicer one. Homecoming,
yes.
I haven't been able to make it to Homecoming. I actually had a reservation for the afternoon that we were going from the Animal Kingdom Lodge to the Beach Club this time. but we'd gone to the boathouse on our first night when we flew in, and just the thought of like either going to do that and like making our way over there, or just going straight to the beach club and enjoying the hotel resort. I was like, well, let's see what's happening with Beaches and Cream. And
Mhm.
lo and behold, the night before there was reservations open. So we were able to eat there, which was really, really cool because I'd heard about that place forever and never had a chance to go there. So that was great. And then on our final night, so last time we took our trip, we did the meal plan because my son was young enough that he was kid price, so it like made sense
Oh yeah.
because he could just get his money's worth at those buffets. This time instead, I just did gift cards in advance because I like that same feeling of
Mhm.
already having paid for it.
Yep.
So we got to on Thursday night before our last day. I knew we had some money left on the gift cards, so I said to my wife, "I'm like, pick a restaurant. Let's figure out where we're going to go for dinner tomorrow night." And she and my son both love steamed mussels. That's one of their favorite things. And one of the restaurants that has that is Le Cellier. So we picked that, and that meal was fantastic as well. Really, really loved that. Would definitely go back there again as well.
I mean, I haven't been there in years but it used to be always on our radar. We used to go there a lot. I haven't been
Oh,
there in a
really?
long time. Is it because it's my vibe, right? I feel like like it's like it's a cellar, basically it's like you're
Yeah.
eating in like a kind of like a basement.
Hmm.
Service good and everything. I mean, still
Everything was
neat.
wonderful. I mean, that's one of the things from the whole trip. I mean, every cast member that we encountered was just you can really tell these people love their jobs and they love bringing that joy to folks like us. And it's so so nice for everywhere you turn. Even, there'd be moments where one of us would be tired or all of us would be tired, and you run into a cast member who just kind of picks you back up. And it happened countless times, including at that restaurant. Service was great.
You gotta be careful getting a late ADR there though. Like if you're tired, because that place can just
Oh
it's
yeah,
a good
yeah,
meal
hundred
there,
percent.
like an 8 o'clock ADR and a good steak. I mean, it's like good. You might fall asleep in that place. I'm just
Yeah,
saying, man,
yeah,
that
we
could be
did. We were the opposite.
dangerous.
We did like a late afternoon because that was our final day, and I knew I wanted to finish in the Magic Kingdom. So yeah, but
Yeah.
I could see nodding off there
Oh
very
yeah.
easily.
I remember because I'm an early eater, but I remember I was with some people and like we went in there like at 8:30 or something. And I'm like, after being, I mean, it was like in the summer and we've been going hard all day. And I ordered something heavy. I can't remember what it
Well,
was. And I was just
I don't
like,
think they
oh,
have anything light there.
no.
So
And, and they had the breadsticks. And of course, I'm like a good Midwesterner, man. I can't turn down breadsticks. I'm chomping on those things. And I was like, I can't even, I don't think I can get up from here. Like, it's so calm
yeah,
in here and dark. I'm done.
yeah, it was
Okay,
really
so
fun.
let me ask you real quick because we're just about out of time, and appreciate it because I know
Mhm.
you're getting through this with the cough. But you guys went over to Universal as well, stayed at Hard Rock Hotel. Now I've never stayed
Mhm.
there. I've gone over, I've stayed over at Cabana Bay and had a good time over there. But Hard Rock, I've toured it and all that stuff when I was over there. That's a cool hotel. It's a really neat
Yeah,
place. It's fancy. Got play the music in the pool and stuff like that. What'd you think of that
yeah.
experience?
It was great. I mean, that was definitely a splurge. We did just our last 2 nights there. So we finished up at Disney on Friday night and then actually stayed at the beach club one more night and then went over on Saturday morning because I knew that because you get the express pass
Yep.
with that resort, we were going to be in no rush when we were at Universal, and that's exactly how it was. I mean, you just walk on to every ride, which was amazing. But the hotel itself was fun. We spent a lot of time at the pool midday, just like as much as we could. Um, maybe the best part of it is it's not only close to the parks, but you have a dedicated security line, and we were only it was only ever us in that security line. Like you just walk right in. So, but yeah, it was very nice. I don't know that I would stay there every time. We've stayed at Cabana Bay in the past and loved that as well.
Mhm.
But for this trip, it felt like a good little plus up, and it definitely was worth it. we really enjoyed it.
Did you get your room key punched into a guitar pick when you left?
You know, I forgot to do that, and I'm so mad at myself
hotel.
because I was talking about it ahead of time,
Yeah.
and I totally forgot to do it.
Just for folks that ever stay there, it's just it's a little known fact. If you give them your room key at checkout, they will punch it into a guitar key for a souvenir for free.
Yeah, and that and the having them bring a guitar and amp up to your room. I forgot to do that. All that stuff I forgot.
Yeah, exactly. Then we'll bring you a guitar to your room so you can jam out in your. Now, I think I guess I give you the headphones, right? I mean,
I would imagine. Otherwise you have some angry neighbors.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, how does that work? I'll even not play guitar.
Especially if you're not very good, right?
You're gonna give me a guitar. I don't know how to play guitar. You can jam out next door. People next door are gonna be happy. They're paying off money for a room. Yes, that's fine. So real quick, the parks though. I mean, is there anything that stood out? I think 13-year-old that ride up his.
Yeah, I mean, we rode Velocicoaster like 20 times, literally, like just over and over again, which was another reason why I thought, this would be nice if my son can bring a friend next time.
Yeah.
I like it, but I can't do it that much. But it's just such a different way of doing things over there. There's just no thought. You don't have to put any thought into it, right? You just wander from ride to ride. And we did the very last thing we did so we flew out on Monday afternoon. So on Monday morning, we went back into the park and we did the 2 water rides over in Islands of Adventure, the Bilge Rat ones, and another one's like a log flume ride. And you get absolutely soaking wet on those, complete, like you took a shower. So we knew that we would finish with that. So that was the very last thing we did. We went over there, loved it, and then went back to the hotel and hung out at the pool to dry out for a little bit, and then went to the airport. Great.
Man, that sounds like a great trip though, because you had so much variety, right? I mean, you guys
did
all the Walt Disney World parks, 2 hotels over at World. You did some kayaking up at Silver Springs, and got to stay at a deluxe over at Universal and have fun in the park. So you guys, I mean, and, of course, you had the other stuff outside of, you're down there for the wedding in Tennessee. So, man, it sounds like you had an epic vacation there.
Yeah, I was really worried about the heat in general going into it, but the midday break was key. You do that and everything you just kind of get used to being hot, but it was fine. We really, really had a great time every single day.
All right. Well, hey, Ian, I appreciate you taking the time to kick off another week with us here on the show. Great trip report, and Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays to you. Hope you have a great one out in San Jose.
All right. Thank you. Same to you. And thanks for having me on.
All right. Don't forget, today's show brought to you by the Magic for Less Travel. We'd love to help you plan your next Walt Disney World, Disneyland, Disney Cruise Line, or Adventures by Disney vacation this week. Just stop by the website. Best part is no additional cost to you and first-class concierge level service each and every time. Check out all the details today over at themagicforless.com. Please also use our Amazon affiliate link as you do that holiday shopping. Tick, tick, tick. The time, the clock is ticking. I know. I got to figure out stuff for the daughters and my wife. Stress. Show the meme of the guy in airplane trying to land the airplane with all the sweat. Ted Stryker. That's getting to be me every single day. But when you do that shopping on Amazon, 2-day shipping. Remember, if you're a Prime member, click through our link. It's beourguestpodcast.com/Amazon. And thank you so very much to our Patreon subscribers. You guys are the heart and soul of our show. You make it possible. $5 a month is all it costs. And for that, you get a bonus show called Mike in the Midwest every week. Come on over this week. We'd love to have you. Patreon.com/beourguestpodcast. Give me a follow on the social media at beourguestmike on Twitter, Instagram, and Threads. You can see all my coverage. I was just on the Disney Treasure last week, and I have lots of pictures and videos from that amazing new ship in the Disney Cruise Line fleet. I was also at Animal Kingdom Lodge for a night, and had some fun there and went into the parks. And don't forget, we'll have a live show this Sunday night. You, me, and Scotty G will be taking your calls 7 o'clock Eastern, 6 o'clock Central, 4 o'clock on the West Coast if you're in San Jose. And we'll be in Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Twitch, and Twitter. All the places. Pick yours, tune in, and give us a call Sunday night. All right, we're going to jump out of here, and we'll be back again on Wednesday with your listener questions. So for Ian out in San Jose, home of the Sharks, I'm Mike here in St. Louis, home of the Blues. And we'll see you on Wednesday. So until then, you guys stay safe, stay healthy, and we'll see you real soon.
You've been listening to the Be Our Guest Walt Disney World Trip Planning Podcast. If you have questions, comments, or would like to be a guest on the show, please visit our website at beourguestpodcast.com. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you real soon.